A little walk this way. Northland Sports Page continues on Grandma's Marathon Saturday. Nothing wrong with folks walking some of the distance now. Still see some of the participants out there. Again, congratulations to just about everybody involved in the race today, providing coverage, putting on the race itself. The entire staff at Grandma's does a whale of a job. And, of course, the participants, you will always have my undying admiration. I would say I couldn't do it, but I have in terms of the 5K, but it took me over an hour, so I can't do what you folks do, and kudos to all of you.
Oh, 100%. It's just amazing. And think of our friends that have done it and all the effort and pride then when they're done that they've had. Like, I mean, if this is your 100th marathon or if it's your first marathon, congratulations.
It is a marathon, not a sprint. There's a cliche that we use in sports quite a bit, perhaps no more often than in Major League Baseball. When you play 162, it is certainly a marathon, not a sprint, and the marathon's been going all kinds of different directions for the Minnesota Twins. Lots of ups and downs, but it is almost the halfway point of their proverbial marathon. In fact, today when they play Oakland this afternoon, they will finish out game number 77 on the season. So we know the halfway point is 81, but that's close enough.
Pretty close,
to say that the Minnesota Twins have essentially closed the second quarter of their season, hence the halfway point. 2/4 is 1/2. I knew how to reduce fractions in school.
That's almost like half past the hour.
Yeah, I was real good at that. Yeah, we are at almost 11:39 right now, if you're wondering. I'm the
21-2.
I'm the new time and temp guy. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook.
Keep the score,
What
baby.
we're going to do is do the quarterly awards that we like to do for the Minnesota Twins, and they go like this. MVP, that's one of them. Cy Young, that's another. Anthony Young, that's not such a great award. If you don't know who Anthony Young, the pitcher, was, Google it. Very disappointing record in his time. Best surprise or biggest surprise and biggest disappointment. Dave Cook, where do you want to start?
Let's get it out of the way. The biggest surprise. We'll just call this the Simeon Woods Richardson Award. Like, shocking, and he's been good.
Yeah, he was my biggest surprise. I think if we go back to the first quarter, I think he was my biggest surprise there. And that's always the struggle I have with this is it the second version of the quarterly awards and we take both quarters into account, or is it the person that's been most surprising in this particular quarter? I always take the whole thing, and I would agree with you on SWR, as the kids are starting to call him, Simeon Woods Richardson, but just to do some different radio, I'm going to pick Jose Miranda and his ability to stick around. Because he was just supposed to be a Band-Aid and be good enough until Royce comes back. And not only did he do that, but it got to the point where Royce is back on the team and otherworldly, and Jose Miranda is batting right around him in the batting order. And you may be disappointed if you're a Brooks Lee fan because he should probably get here soon. Where? We don't know. But Jose Miranda's made decisions very difficult for a lot of Twins brass.
That's his job, right?
Right.
His job is to make that call really difficult, and it's good for him, right? Because 2 years ago, he was good. Last year, he was bad. So it's nice to see him get back to a major league player, right? I think that I need to, because he's been here before, I kind of need to see it a little longer before I go there. But you're right, he's been a pleasant surprise.
And on an awkward side note, I just enjoy the memes that I get to send when he does something well, because his cousin is Lin-Manuel Miranda. So when I get to send Hamilton memes when he hits a home run, I enjoy that because Lord knows every time Carlos Santana does something, Santana the guitarist makes an appearance in my text messages as well. All right, so our biggest surprise is done. Where do you want to go next?
Well, let's go with Cy Young, because I think Cy Young's the most difficult of these. I mean, I guess Joe Ryan makes sense. Griffin Jacks makes sense.
Right, those are the two.
Thielbar makes. Oh, never mind.
Not so much.
Wrong guy. Simeon Woods Richardson can be in the conversation, but so it's hard to put a reliever in as the Cy Young.
Right.
But
this is proof that we hang out too much, because you picked the two that I would have picked, and then my retort would have been, unless you're Dennis Eckersley or even Mariano Rivera, relievers don't belong in this discussion.
So, but let's go there, all right? Because I'm going to pick Jacks, and I'll pick Jacks because starting pitching has been, as a rule, fair to Midland. The one you're going to talk about has been better than that. But the rest of them have been, 500 pitchers. And the Twins are a 500 team, but a lot of that is because Griffin Jacks has held the boat together until we can score late. So, my take on failed starters. They end up in the bullpen, and he is that.
Right.
But he's been really good this year. And maybe he's an MVP candidate instead of a Cy Young candidate, but I'm going to give him the Cy Young.
No, I agree 4,000%. In fact, I'll just take Joe Ryan for the simple purpose of just being different. But if I wasn't doing that, I am taking Griffin Jacks for everything you just said. And I look at it as Cy Young needs to have a reliability factor to it. Nobody on the Twins right now has a consistent reliability factor. We've seen Duran get torched. We've seen Cole Sands try to be that guy. Please stop.
Yeah, Brock Stewart gets hurt all the time.
Right. This Stalmont kid seems to be fairly good, but then they put him in higher leverage spots and it doesn't work.
Thielbar
is going to win an award here shortly.
He's a fireman, all right. He's the arson part of it.
But he's the fire him already.
Yeah, right.
And then, Bailey Ober's been inconsistent. Pablo Lopez is going to win an award from me here shortly, but again, not a good one. It's just, I don't know that Griffin Jacks is Cy Young caliber, and I'm not talking about the actual award. I don't even think he's Twins Cy Young caliber, but it's an indictment on the inconsistency all around.
Yeah, it's an indictment on the fractured living that our starters are. Like, who knows? You can't get down on anybody because they have a good outing, and then they have a terrible outing, and you get down on them, and they come back with a good outing. So, yeah, it's hard.
Well, and the thing that scares you is you want to just ask what happened, because it wasn't that long ago where the bullpen was a strength. And I completely understand that Brock Stewart got hurt, and I realize that roles fluctuate because of that. But you can't tell me that a serviceable bullpen, or better than that, completely topples because of one injury. They don't have a slew of injuries. They have one.
Yeah, and it's an important one, but I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it every week until he either becomes a great starter or they trade him, and that's why isn't Louis Varland doing what he's good at? Like, Louis Varland is a middling starter. So the idea of failed starter becomes bullpen stud is Louis Varland. Like, he's just a guy. I mean, he's a number 3 pitcher at AAA. Pull him up, make him Brock Stewart. Like, give him the 1.5 ERA blowing pitcher or blowing hitters away, rather than a 4.5 ERA and his stuff plays down because he's got to sustain himself. Let's just do it.
So let me ask you a question that came up on social media after another heartbreaking late loss last night. And I know this is old school versus new school. Rocco likes to play matchups. If the best part of your lineup is up in the 8th instead of the 9th, Duran's going to get the 8th. It happened last night and it backfired. And the old school guys immediately pounced on their keyboards and said, you don't put a closer in the 8th unless you absolutely have to. Quit screwing around and put them in the 9th when it matters, and use the bridge guys to be the bridge. Is there any merit to, because it's super easy to say something like that when it doesn't work, is there any merit to, we need the starter to hopefully go 6. You need a bridge guy in the 7th, the bridge guy in the 8th, and the closer in the 9th. Rather than, I want my best reliever against the best hitters, I don't care what inning it is. Because that is kind of the new school of pitching thought, just like when we were kids, the best hitters batted 3, 4, 5. Now you got best hitters leading off, best hitters batting second. Let's take this into the bullpen. Does the inning matter?
So that's not really old school thinking. Old school thinking is relievers that pitch 2 or 3 innings. I mean, Raleigh Fingers pitched 2 or 3. Eckersley pitched 2 or 3.
It's quasi new school. It's 90s thinking.
It's 90s thinking. Yeah. And does it make sense? Sure. But I like the way Rocco does the bullpen. Like, if he needs a key out, he puts in the guy that can get the key out. Imagine if the 3, 4, 5 hitters are up in the 8th and he throws, pick your poison, Caleb Thielbar, which we've seen, right? And he gives up 3. Well, why isn't the answer, well, gosh, you have the best bullpen guy in the league. Why didn't you put him there, right? He's in a no-win spot. When it was, Lee Smith and guys who threw an inning a third, an inning and 2/3. I mean, it was a different time. And so Duran's thrown an inning in, an inning and a third, inning and 2/3. Like, I have no problem throwing him out there early, because firemen was what closers were called before they were called closers. And firemen put out fires, and that's what Duran does best. Like, bring him in when you need him. Understanding you got to have a deep bullpen in order to cover up at the end.
All right, so Cy Young and surprise are done. We need MVP, Anthony Young, and disappointment.
All right, let's go disappointment. Let's just go there first, because it's got to be the second baseman, right? It's Julian. And because we thought second base was kind of taken care of, right? And Julian had worked hard to become a better defender and is going to be a good hitter. And all of a sudden we found out he has no idea what to do with a breaking pitch. He couldn't hit a curveball right now if he had a tennis racket. And so right now, because we thought we had second base put away, like, we've got this figured out. What are we going to do with Brooks Lee? Well, now second base isn't figured out. And so I think he's the biggest disappointment for me.
while that is disappointing, certainly, I can't put it as the biggest because expectations have to factor in. Coming into the season, we had high hopes for Julian, and we don't now. That's fact. However, we had question marks. Sophomore slump. Can he hit this well this long? Apparently not. Defensively, can he figure it out? Sort of.
Sort of.
But we had those question marks. We did not question if Pablo Lopez is suddenly going to look like a fourth starter instead of an ace. This is brutal.
Yeah.
Because he's got a good track record and a good head on his shoulders, he could turn it around. But the fact that he has to turn it around this much, and we're in late June, there can't be anything more disappointing than your number one being hot garbage.
Right. Well, there can be because you know he's coming back. He will. I mean, and if he doesn't, then the Arise people can start talking.
But they really can't because Arise isn't even on the team that we traded him to. So we still won that trade.
That's true. All right, let's go with the Anthony Young.
Okay, so the Anthony Young is Caleb Thielbar, and the only reason that he wouldn't be is because Rocco's not even using him, it doesn't seem like anymore. They're hiding him back there. You can't DFA him, nobody wants him, and you can't really use him unless you have to.
And you really don't have a lefty in his spot.
Right, so if you go by people that you're trying to use, for me it's Cole Sands, because the theory behind the Anthony Young is when this guy comes in, you go, we lost. Well, at this point, if Caleb Thielbar is pitching, we've probably already lost. So for me, it's Cole Sands. They're trying to turn him into Brock Stewart, and that's not fair. And he fails in big spots, and people end up lamenting Cole Sands a lot more than they do Caleb Thielbar because Thielbar is the assumed loss. So pick one. For me, it's Thielbar or Sands.
So for me, it's Paddock. And it's Paddock because the expectations were high. They weren't as high, they weren't sky high, but they were, okay, we've got this spot figured out. Now, Pedro has been not the ace that we had hoped, but he's not been hot garbage. You know, Joe Ryan is probably going to be if it's not the shortstop, he's probably the MVP, or he's probably going to the All-Star game for the Twins. And that third spot was supposed to be Paddock. And Paddock has had a couple good games, but the rest of it's just been it's not always trash, but it's you don't ever think he's going to take the bull by the horns and win this, right? He's holding on for dear life until the bullpen gets there. And
right.
That's how it feels every single time.
The reason I don't put him in this mix is because the guy, Lavelle Neal III, we just got done talking to, because he told me, I love that you like Paddock, but people don't bounce back from those type of operations multiple times and be effective. And in the early goings, we went, well, maybe he's a medical miracle, and now he's not.
No, he's not.
All right, so we've got the MVP left, correct?
The MVP. The MVP of this team is, in my opinion, is the shortstop.
100%.
But I think that's probably where you're going to go.
Yep, 100%.
So I'm going to let you take that one.
If it wasn't him for me, it's Willie Castro, because it always is.
Well, you go with that one because I just know I agree with you. But
okay.
I'm going to go with the third baseman, and I'm going to go with the third baseman because when he plays, they win. And so...
See, and I completely disagree with that because he's been otherworldly, and it's amazing, and what he's doing is beyond words. But you look at, with this up and down season, I don't have it in front of me in terms of factual, but I would like to know their record since he's joined the team. They're losing, and he homered. That's what it is. I'm not taking anything away from Royce, but I can't say when he's in the lineup, they win. They have a better shot, but they're not winning he's here necessarily.
I think when he's in the lineup, they're a better team.
100%.
And I think when he's not, they're as you said, at best, okay. So you filled another spot. I think it's Royce, but not as hard as I think it's a shortstop, but go.
All right, I will tell you that I'll buy what you're selling. We'll play buy or sell next. We're all kinds of discombobulated with the different time frame of the show today. We're going until just in front of 12:30. We'll play buy or sell, and then we'll draw some lines with a local connection to the NBA championship, and that'll end the show. Stick around. We'll be right back. And congratulations to everybody that's done that today with their marathon weekend participation, whether it's the full, the half, or last night's 5K. Congratulations on running down a dream. I'll tell you what, this is Brian Prudhomme, I'm Dave Cook. It was long a dream of mine to have a sports talk show just like this. That dream has become a reality thanks to you, Dave Cook, but thanks, of course, to our sponsors as well.
Absolutely. Let's start with the Blackwoods Group, including their location on London Road. You know, Brian, that's right by where Lemon Drop Hill is. Blackwater, downtown. Tavern on the Hill, their locations in Proctor and in Two Harbors. Mount Royal Bottle Shop, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Comfort Systems of Duluth, Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai, Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, Kraus Heating and Cooling, heat and cool your house with Kraus. Assisted Living Locators, free to use. Help your loved ones locate assisted living, memory care, and independent living. Brian, we've both had to do this over the past 6-7 years, and it is a hassle, and you don't know anything about it. We're not supposed to know anything about it, right? So use the folks at Assisted Living Locators, www.assistedlivinglocators.com/Duluth. Hoops Brewing, Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance, and Arola Architecture Studio.
Very thankful for all of our sponsors. We hope that you all will buy everything that they're selling, and it's time here on the Northland Sports page for another rendition of Buy or Sell. The way it works is this. I'm going to give a statement on each of the 4 major sports leagues: Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, NFL. If Dave agrees, he's going to say buy. If he disagrees, he's going to say sell. In each case, he's going to tell me why. He has great takes on that, and he also has the responsibility of telling us the order in which we're going to play today.
All right, so we're going to end with the National Basketball Association.
Okay.
Right? So let's start with the other team now, the only league left in playoffs, and let's start with the National Hockey League.
Okay, so the National Hockey League, I'm going to give you a two-parter because Dave Hoops alluded to part of this, and I just want your take before we say goodbye at around 12:20, 12:25 today. So we're going to do 2 buy or sells NHL related. The first one should be easy. Buy or sell. I know what you want, but now that the Oilers have forced a Game 7, buy or sell, they win this thing.
They win. I buy. They've run roughshod over Florida, and they won last night, and McDavid didn't even score. Like, he's been on a tear like we haven't seen, and Florida held him off the scoreboard, and the Oilers' depth won. If McDavid puts it back in gear the way he's been playing, I think the Oilers win this in 7.
I buy as well. It's one of those, as the kids would say, bleep around and find out. Florida had multiple opportunities to get this series back for one game to the way that they basically determined how it was going to be played during the first 3. They failed and failed and failed. Now I think you've let a team hang around that is probably better than you because Edmonton's offense is so good. It's going to be tough to go to Florida and finish it, but it should have been really tough to get here, and Edmonton's done it. Plus, just from a great story, this would be kind of sad if they 4-7 and then didn't win it.
Yeah, but here's the question. The most important player tonight is Tkachuk.
Nobody tonight because nobody's playing.
Tomorrow night. He's been mouthy, right, and talking a good game and playing like trash. And so if he comes out and plays his game, like legitimately goes back to where he was last year at this time, well, maybe not last year at this time, but last year during the season, he could make a difference because he's a guy that could get in McDavid's head. But if he continues to play a non-factor, then I think Edmonton's got this really well.
Well, not to be mouthy like him again, but you said he was the most important player tonight, and then you revised it to tomorrow. Game 7's Monday. So he'll be important at some point. When they play again, he's going to be a big deal. All right, so the second buy or sell, we'll get Dave off the hook very quickly. The second buy or sell that's NHL related is the draft is coming up.
Yeah.
The Wild pick 13th.
Yep.
We're told that's kind of the middle abyss, and with the NHL, you never know how impactful they're going to be right away.
Yep.
But the draft is being held at the Sphere, which you and I both think is pretty cool. Buy or sell, that's the only part of the draft that would excite you.
I'm going to sell that because I'm excited to see what the Wild do. But I think the best part of the draft weekend, unlike the NFL, which has this figured out, is probably the fact that it's going to be at the Sphere, right? I just don't know if the Sphere, it'll be interesting to see how it is, right? I mean, it's the first time. Ask me next year if they do it again, if it was any good. But I am excited to see they're not going to draft Charlie Stramel again. They'll draft a guy who's legitimate lottery. It's just like you said, okay, we'll see you in 4 years.
All right, so I'm going to sell that the Sphere would be the interesting part, but my reason is going to be a little bit different. I know that not everybody selected in the NHL draft is going to be immediately impactful. It's not unlike Major League Baseball where it could be a while. But I remember reasons past that I liked Major League Baseball's draft because I knew some people. Remember when we were affiliated with the Huskies? They would be drafted by the half dozen or so, and we would get excited and talk about what it was like to do play-by-play or do public address for them. We're kind of going to be in that boat here too, potentially. There's going to be some kids with the last name Plant that are going to be attending this draft. And I'm going to be more excited about, kind of like your fandom for Winnipeg and all their local ties. Who do I know? Who have I seen? Because so many times in drafts, I go, well, I hope that kid turns out. I have no idea what he's like. And obviously when you're dealing with local products, it's a different take.
Yeah, and doing the state tournament,
right.
We know a little bit about Pilgrim and some of those guys.
Max and Zam had me call the only goal in my play-by-play history that I said, are you kidding me? That's out of a video game.
Yeah.
So I want to see what happens for them.
Yep. No,
and of course, some of them are going to be Bulldogs as a pit stop along the way, so that's going to have excitement for me too.
Let's go Winnipeg. Let's draft every one of them.
All right. So where do you want to go from here? We've taken a long time to do altogether one.
NFL.
All right. So the NFL, the top 100 player list came out this week, and in the wide receiver area, JJ was not the top one. Tyreek Hill was. buy or sell, you feel Tyreek Hill is a better receiver than Justin Jefferson.
I'm going to sell that. I'm going to tell you that he's a more dangerous weapon.
Right.
But I think that
By
Jefferson,
the way, today sucks because we have the same brain.
Jefferson's a better wide receiver. He just is.
Yep.
But that being said, the most uncoverable player in the NFL is Tyreek Hill. Like, good luck. If they got a fast receiver, he's stronger. If you got a strong or a fast cornerback, he's stronger. If you've got a strong cornerback, he's faster. And regardless, he's so fast out of breaks that you have to have the complete package. The kid from the Jets will have problems covering him, and he's probably
Sauce Gardner,
and he's probably the best cornerback in the league.
Okay, so the only good part about this is with the altered start time today with our marathon coverage, I have struggled even more than I normally do on a weekly basis with timing. Because we are thinking the same today, I'm going to get us back on schedule in a big way. Because I agree with you. I don't know how to buy or sell this because it depends on what being a better receiver means.
Right.
If it's a game-by-game impact, I'll take Tyreek Hill because nobody can cover him. And you have to open up so much more of the field to try to stay with him. But in terms of being a wide receiver, making a contested catch, running a route where you go, that wasn't speed. He just was so precise. He torched that guy. Making a catch where you go, how in the bleep did he do that? Being the go-to guy for everything. Give me JJ.
How about being less dependent on the quarterback? Because JJ did this with hot garbage.
Right. That's a factor as well. So give me JJ in the all-around sense, but from Sunday to Sunday to Sunday, you see Tyreek Hill does this and this and this, and if he doesn't, he opened up the entire field for everybody else.
Yep. That's the thing. He's a weapon.
Speed kills, and you can't teach it.
Yep.
So
right.
Give me either one of them, and you're in a good spot.
So let's go do ball.
All right. So Major League Baseball, I didn't leave a lot of time for this, and you kind of alluded to it with Dave Hoops. The passing of Willie Mays.
Yeah.
The game lost an icon, lost a legend, lost, in my opinion, the best center fielder, maybe the best player ever. And that's the debate. Because like Jordan and LeBron, even though it's not the same, this debate used to come up all the time, hasn't for a while. Buy or sell that the best player ever is Willie Mays, or buy or sell that if it isn't, it's Babe Ruth.
I'm gonna sell the first part because I think the second part is. I think Babe Ruth. I mean, you gotta go back to the fact that he was a 20-game winner. That his ERA for his career
was like 2,
and his World Series playoff ERA is like under 2. And then he's known for obviously all the home runs. But please note that when he was hitting 50, there were teams that weren't hitting 50. So imagine that today. Just extrapolate it. So whoever's got the lowest home run total in Major League Baseball right now, imagine there being one player who's going to hit more home runs of that entire team. Well, they would be considered the greatest ball player ever. So it's Babe because he pitched. It's Willie second, and not by much, right? Like those two, and then it's the next group, right? And Aaron's in that next group, and Junior's probably in that next group who we've talked about. And then after that, you can start to cherry pick. They call me a small Hall of Fame guy. Well, the smallest of the small Hall of Fames are those two guys. It's Mays, it's Ruth, and then it's kind of everybody else in that little short circle next, Williams, Aaron, that group. And then you can just keep going out wider. Harold Baines is not in that group, by the way. He's in the room because
somebody gave him a key.
His manager and GM voted him in.
Yeah, he's dog sitting and someone gave him a key.
Right, but it's really hard because Willie Mays is the best baseball player that's ever been covered in color, right, on TV with a colored TV. There hasn't been anybody even near as good as Willie Mays since then. Junior's probably closest.
Yeah, it is very hard. And it used to not be because it used to be, well, you didn't pitch and you didn't pitch that well because you nailed it. Statistically, Babe Ruth wasn't just a pitcher. He was a darn good one. And we marveled over what Ohtani did for that very reason because nothing Ruthian had been done. And we hear about things being Willie Mays like with styles of catches and the way they run the bases and the power and all that good stuff. But you look at them both and there's situations where nobody else could do this or this because Babe Ruth couldn't run the bases like Willie Mays. Babe Ruth, if asked, I know Babe Ruth was an outfielder. He's not a Willie Mays caliber outfielder at all. You think of Babe Ruth and you think of a roly-poly type physique. You think of Willie Mays and you think of that as an athlete, 100%. But John Kruk said, I'm not an athlete, I'm a ball player. And Willie Mays didn't win over 100 games with an ERA of 2. You cannot be wrong here is my point. I didn't used to think that. I thought it was Ruth and then it was Mays because who'd ever heard of, oh, by the way, I'll be your ace, and by the way, I'll hit a home run every time. So you can argue Babe Ruth couldn't run the bases like Willie, but he never had to. But then Willie, it wasn't like he never hit home runs. You can't be wrong. I'm kind of pleading the fifth on this.
The guy who's going to be interesting is Ohani when he goes back to...
When you put the T in his last name.
Right. When he goes...
Spill the tea,
When
Dave.
his elbow comes around and he's pitching again in Los Angeles with the Dodgers, with that team around him, give him that for 6-7 years and then let's start to talk, right? Because if he is the guy he was in California last year with the Dodgers, you give him, a decade of doing that sort of thing, and we'll put him in that conversation, 100%.
All right, so very quick with the NBA. The season is over. The Celtics are your champions, so the odds for next year in terms of championship caliber team are out already. The Wolves are third. Buy or sell, that's too high. The two teams above them, if that helps you, Denver and Boston. Denver 2, Boston 1.
Goodness gracious, Brian. I'm going to say that's too high, but not by much. I think I put Oklahoma City in front of them.
I would have before the trade they made.
I think they've made a right trade. I think that the point guard they had is limited, so they brought in another guy who's limited, but a lockdown defender.
But you love the guy they got rid of, too.
Oh, yeah. Yep, and he's going to just go to Chicago and die on the vine.
My question is this. How is Dallas behind the Wolves?
Because I think
Kyrie gets a year older, I get it, but a lot of that core for Dallas is young, and if Luka actually takes a learning experience from this year, Dallas is as good, if not better, than the Wolves again.
I think the reason that is the Wolves were in every one of those games, but the last one and Detroit or Dallas got smoked by Boston. So if the Wolves grow up a little bit and have a little, now they've got some playoff experience, I don't think they lose that series.
What do you say we talk to somebody that had an up-close and personal look at the Celtics and the Mavs for Drawing Lines? Final segment as we're going a little late today because we started a little late. Northland Sports Page, Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, so that's more of a Red Sox winning song with Dirty Water, but there is another championship in Boston. Banner number 18 goes to the Celtics as they defeat the Dallas Mavericks in 5. That championship was captured back on Monday nights, and it's going to be a big part of our Drawing Lines segment to close the show. That's courtesy of Arola Architecture Studio here on the Northland Sports Page. Brian Prudhomme, Dave Cook. Dave, you know that Duluth, the Northland in general, we love to localize anything we can.
Yeah, we're good at it too.
And with a lack of Minnesota pro sports teams winning titles, believe it or not, there's a Duluth connection to the NBA championship because Sam Hauser was a big catalyst off the bench for this Boston Celtics championship team. And his father, Dave, is a former UMD Bulldog basketball icon who I happen to not only idolize as a kid, but stay close to now.
Yeah, no, it's really cool when we get the opportunity to talk to the folks that we know that have connections, right? Because we get a chance then to visit about not necessarily the ins and outs of the game, but the feel, right? The energy of the place. And then, what it's like to be a parent in that situation. This is going to be great.
Absolutely. So we will bring in Dave Hauser. Dave Cook, you may have noticed that during the buy or sell portion of the basketball talk, I wasn't saying as much because A, I wanted to be cognizant of the timing, and B, I wanted to leave it up to somebody who was right there during, championship time for the Boston Celtics. We thought maybe his guest appearance today was going to be up in the air because earlier today he was too, but landed and with us now by phone is Dave Hauser. Dave, good morning, sir. It's always good to talk to you.
Morning, Brian. Morning, David. How are you?
Well,
we are doing very well. We might say championship caliber, but your son Sam certainly is. Talk about what a thrill this last week and a half, and really the entire season has been.
Really trying to still get it to think in and put in words. My wife and I did the parade yesterday. We made a lot of games during the playoffs, and just trying to figure out what's going on. And we're still in awe of the whole thing, but it was an awesome ride.
Certainly was, and Sam Hauser was a big part of it. This may be a little bit of a tall task of a comparison, but as I watch Sam in these games, hitting big perimeter shots off the bench, I was only 7 years old, but a huge Celtics fan during that 86 title, and I'm watching Sam going, this is Danny Ainge reincarnated. Did you see any of that in his ability to make shots in the finals?
I haven't really heard that comparison, but that's a good one. And it just watching Sam and playing and knowing kind of where he was going to go in and how they've used him and how he's grown with them. It was just, it's just exciting to see him go in and help the team and influence wins and be part of that process.
It certainly was exciting to watch. I've been a longtime Celtics fan. The Timberwolves are my 1, but Boston is my 1A, and quite frankly, Boston was my 1 because the Wolves didn't come around until I was 10. So Celtics lore is something I like to dabble in, so this was a ton of fun. But one thing I noticed about this team the whole way through the season was just that, the team concept. The media tried to hype, is this Jaylen Brown's team? Is this Jason Tatum's team? Is it the older man, Al Horford? Is it his team? Holiday was beyond excellent. This entire team is what got it done. Isn't that kind of a refreshing concept in today's NBA?
Yeah, absolutely. Just listening to Sam and, talking basketball as, a dad to his son, like, what are the comparables? What's different? And, and he just didn't have a lot of things that were different. Coach preached team, and the coach preached got to stay together. Coach preached, hey, next man up mentality, and it was super refreshing. I don't know how other organizations work, but
yeah, this organization, Dave, just continues to work. I think we're having some in and out connection with your cell phone, but I'm going to continue on and hope you can stay with us. I want to talk to you a little bit about Joe Mazzulla, too, because he's kind of beyond compare right now. The number one comparison for me would be Tom Kelly, because as a Minnesota kid, my teams don't win a lot of titles, but when the Twins won their first one, Tom Kelly was incredibly young and unknown. I feel like Joe Mazzulla kind of fits that ilk right now. And I'm going to feel terrible if we've lost Dave Hauser. I think you're still there. Can you hear us okay? Oh, now I heard the click. Now I can tell that Dave Hauser is gone. I may try to regain him really quick. We're going to have one more opportunity to give some love to our sponsors, and I'll have Dave Cook do that while I try to reconnect with Mr. Hauser as he swallows the giant granola bar he's been munching on.
Right. Let's start with a Roll Architecture Studio. They're the whole bit behind the drawing line segment. Hoops Brewing, Mike Regan at Christensen Group Insurance, the Blackwoods Group, including their locations in London Road, Blackwater right downtown, Proctor and the side bit where you can rent space. The Proctor Blackwoods isn't just the restaurant, right? Two Harbors and Tavern on the Hill, Mount Royal Bottle Shop, Stewart's Bike Sports and Trophies, Comfort Systems of Duluth, Kohler Toyota and Kohler Hyundai, Advantage Emblem and Screen Printing, Kraus Heating and Cooling, heat your house with Kraus, Assisted Living Locators. Reach them at www.assistedlivinglocators.com/Duluth.
And that's a cliffhanger. I think Dave's done there. He had another bite of a granola bar to take, but I hope we've got Dave Hauser back. That's called on-air ad-libbing, as we gave some love to our sponsors. Again, we're doing the drawing line segment courtesy of Roll Architecture Studio. Dave Hauser, I want to make sure. Do we have you back?
Can you guys, we back?
I've got you. I can hear you. We'll hang with it as long as we can. This is our final segment anyway. I'm not sure what question you heard or didn't hear, but I was talking about Joe Mazzulla, and he's relatively young in the coaching world, at least from a head coach perspective. He climbed the ladder rather quickly. I feel like he was relatively unknown, and you blink and he's got a title. I made a Tom Kelly comparison because those are the only championships in Minnesota I know. But did Sam say anything about what he's like to play for? Because this team seemed to gravitate towards him.
Well, Sam played for Joe his first year right after the draft. Sam played for Joe in Summer League when Joe was an assistant coach within the organization. And, just watching Joe and some of the comments he made about Sam, he noticed things about Sam that I'm not sure everybody's watching. And some of those comments were simply, hey, he made the right cut, or he spaced to the right corner. It's different things. So, as with all great coaches, they see the game in their own light. And I think Joe's just brought his own uniqueness to how he's going to coach a basketball team. And we don't ever ask Sam a ton of questions about the locker room because that's a lot.
It's sacred, right?
But, yeah, and he's talked about just like the connection with not just Joe but the assistants and just kind of the togetherness that he keeps and he fosters in that locker room, and it carries out on the court.
Talking with Dave Hauser, the father of Sam Hauser of the Boston Celtics, and Dave Hauser, of course, had great success as a UMD Bulldog basketball player. The big three for UMD back then, at least in my eyes, was Dave Zoller, Dave Hauser, and Jay Ginniger, and there were many more great supporting cast members as well. But talking again about Sam and this wonderful season, you talked about Joe Mazzulla being familiar with him. Did that familiarity lead to this big jump? Because I'm just looking at Sam's year-by-year statistics. He went from playing 26 games to 80 to, of course, 79. So he became a regular member of the rotation. And the minutes have gone up year to year. It seems like Sam Hauser's really found himself as an NBA player.
Again, I think, Sam figuring out kind of what that levels looks like, and then building the trust and with Joe and, again, their staff. And, anytime somebody builds trust with a coach, you're going to probably find yourself in more opportunities, and then you got to take advantage of it. And I think Sam took advantage of them. Fortunately, last year when Gallinari got hurt, we never want to see a guy go down, but that opened some doors for Sam, and I felt like he did a really good job with that, and then he kind of built that into this year.
That makes a lot of sense. I also want to talk about what it was like to be there, because we just mentioned it's more fun to talk to somebody that took it all in. I mean, I watched every game of the finals on TV. I watched a ton of Timberwolves playoff action, obviously caught the Celtics whenever I could, but you can't beat being there. Take me into that moment, whichever moment you want to choose during the postseason, both as a dad and then just as a fan, being, that close to that big of a moment in the sport.
Moments for your children don't change. You want what's best for them, and you hope they find success. And we knew going into the season that they had a chance to make a playoff run for sure. And then we just kept going to playoff games, and we just kept winning. And I don't know, just sitting there and just watching Sam selfishly, hope he does well. But then obviously we want the team to keep advancing. And as I kept going, the picture kept kind of coming together for us. And like I said earlier, for mom and dad, the parade yesterday was insane, and you're just kind of still trying to figure out, like, wow, did this really happen? And it's coming through a little bit more each day, but it's been an awesome ride.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty unbelievable, because I've been to the city of Boston a couple of times. It's one of my favorite vacation spots, honestly, but I can only imagine what a championship parade would be like. Dave Hauser, you mentioned that you want good things for your children. We're not just going to talk about Sam. Joey Hauser's NBA career is still in its development stages as well. Fill us in.
Yeah, Joey went through his first year as a professional. Kind of started out with Utah, and then they had a change of heart, and then he had to find another job. He found that with the Clippers organization, with their G League team, and now he played through that season and got his first taste of how with that. And now he's, working for an opportunity and just finding the right set of eyes, that see what, he offers. He'll be playing with the Pelicans summer league team here in a couple weeks, and he's in that position where you're constantly auditioning for a job, and you're always in front of eyes, and you just take advantage of the opportunity, and hope somebody sees what you're selling.
He certainly got some good preparation playing for Tom Izzo. There's certainly nothing wrong with that in any stretch. I want to talk a little bit about college basketball, but I want to do it closer to where you played, because I often ask former Bulldogs how much they follow the team now, because Justin Wick has that team kind of at the epitome of success on an annual basis. Are you still following the Bulldogs? And if you are, that's got to bring a smile.
Yeah, Coach Wick has been really good about touching base with alumni and trying to include us, in a monthly basis or daily for some other ones as well that live closer. But just, he's done a great job. Let's just say with the program, he's done an excellent. I think he's really put his vision into place there. I think he, when he talked to some of us when we first got the job about what he was going to do, you saw the building block, the plan, the blueprint, whatever you want to call it, and he put it out there. But the one thing that he's done a tremendous job is brought his own culture, and UMD's got its own history in a lot of sports. Men's basketball is obviously near and dear to my heart, but I think he's just a really great coach, and I hope he stays there for a long time. But yeah, I touch base some, not as much during the season because we're busy as well, but just keeping track of them, and then I talk with like some other guys here and there, and watch from afar, and it's been great. It's been great. We have some local connections there. Obviously, Drew Blair played with Joey in high school, so it was great to still have that connection there, and just a proud alumni for sure, no question about it. He's put it back on the map on the national level as well.
He certainly has. Again, talking with UMD Bulldog and alum Dave Hauser. His son Sam is an integral part of the now NBA champion Boston Celtics. Dave, I want to close with a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek question. I hope you take it the right way, but I'm watching Sam Hauser, and I mentioned your Bulldog glory days because I hope you remember that I was a little 10, 11, 12-year-old kid just worshiping everything you guys did. but I mentioned your Bulldog glory days of Zoller, Hauser, and Ginniger, and then I'm watching Sam Hauser play in these finals, and I'm going, jersey number 30. Now, that was Zoller. Are you going to get either Joey or Sam to wear 40 like you did?
You know, when they're at that level, they get told what they're wearing. I don't think there's a lot of requests going on. In fact, I never requested 40 either. Coach Race pretty much told me what I was wearing, and he told me I was going to like it when he gave it to me. So that's all I can say about the numbers.
That checks out. Coach Race told a lot of us what we were going to like when we liked it. But I really liked having you on, Dave Hauser. I love the fact that we still get to keep in touch. It means a lot to me, and your appearance today did as well. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Have a good one, all right?
You as well. Enjoy the championship parade hangover. That had to be one heck of an experience, and we appreciate the experience today. We are done, just like the marathon participants. Dave Cook, we got to run, but we got to say some thank yous as well. Thank you to Dave Hoops. Thank you to Lavelle Neal. Thank you to Dave Hauser. Thank you to Ken Hayes for helping us get on the air smoothly today. Thank you to everybody in Duluth involved with the marathon. This is one of the greatest weekends to be here. I hope if you tuned in that we made it even more enjoyable for everybody.
Yeah, 100%. I hope that you guys, if you're a first-time listener, you become a second-time listener pretty quick. And, take advantage of our sponsors, as we've been saying the whole time. Thank you, Brian. It was a good day today.
Absolutely. And a Super Sunday fun day tomorrow on these airwaves from noon to 1 will be Monster Weekend kickoff as we prepare for the Harbor Monsters to host the Goats of Kansas City. And again, their game is at 5 o'clock tomorrow at the Deck. If you can't be there, you can catch the game right here. So this weekend of sports is just getting going. But for now, we're out of here. We will talk to you tomorrow on Monster Weekend Kickoff. Dave Cook, you get the last word.
Edmonton plays Monday.
Yes, they do. And Kachuk will be mouthy on Monday.
Monday.
Mouthy Monday should be easy for you.
Monday night.
Nothing came easy today, but we made it. Have a good weekend, everybody.